I should start with a bit of backstory. I've been a fan of Suze Kempner for several years. She's a fantastic comedian, an amazing singer, her tweets are prolific and hilarious, and her YouTube videos are absolute genius. I've often thought that she's about to become the next big thing. So I was delighted when she was cast as Doom in Doomsday, the multi-platform Doctor Who event for the 60th anniversary. Finally her big break, and in my favourite franchise as well. Unfortunately, a lot of fans were not thrilled by the initial trailer. There were comments like, "This feels like a video played before a bad Doctor Who theme park ride," and "This is the universe's greatest assassin. Did all the other assassins die in some meeting she missed?" Which seemed a bit harsh. I wanted to tweet something supportive, like, "Hey, you only had 60 seconds to establish a brand new character, explain quite complicated plot, and get people excited enough about the event to buy into it for the next several months." Even an experienced actor would have struggled with that brief. I didn't say any of that. I wanted to sound funny and clever, so instead I tweeted, "Don't worry, everyone hated K9 when he first showed up, but 30 years later he was a beloved and iconic part of the series, and the same thing could happen to you." In retrospect, that may have been a mistake. Suze replied, "Thanks," which made me want to say, no, I was being ironic. I'm not one of those fans, I'm one of these fans. But I didn't want to dig myself in any deeper. Then Georgia Tennant replied, "Which is amazing. That's the same Georgia Tennant who was so good as Jenny in The Doctor's Daughter." So that's two women who I admire and respect, who now think I'm a total idiot. Even worse, Georgia is married to David Tennant. Not just one of my favourite Doctors, but one of my favourite actors full stop. There is a non-zero chance that she could have showed him that tweet. And now the actual current Doctor thinks I'm just a stupid fan who compares women to robot dogs. But I guess that serves me right. Anyway, let's talk about Doomsday. It's divided up into 24 chapters after the 24 hours in a day. 2 of them are in the mobile game, which I didn't bother with, as apparently it's a total waste of time. And the final chapter has yet to be published, and there's no indication of when it will be. It could be days or weeks away, so maybe I'll do another video then. The first hour is the text story on the website by James Gunn. This has a bit of a Douglas Adams feel to it, with lines like, "Her resting expression was someone who just swiped the last chocolate and discovered it was the one she didn't like." Weirdly, there is more characterisation for Terry the receptionist than for Doom herself. We learn that she's an assassin, and we meet her after one of her jobs has gone wrong, and she finds that she is dying and needs to find the Doctor. Exactly what happened to make her think all this is left a bit vague, but reading between the lines, it's quite easy to guess that Doom may have killed her future self, thus creating a massive time loop. Although I'm not sure it was that obvious when I first read it. The next 4 hours came in the comic that came with a special edition of Doctor Who magazine, bumping up the price significantly. It was not worth it. The stories are very short, some only 2 pages long, and although Doom meets a doctor and a companion, there's no real depth at all. Jacqueline Rayner's script is very lightweight, while Russ Leach's artwork is decent but nothing special. Next come the 2 issues of the Titan comic, which is still a bit light, but overall it's a definite improvement. The first issue is set at a masked ball and Stormcage prison, both locations which have already been used in the story so far, which is a bit alarming. But issue 2 is a lot more original. Both issues benefit hugely from the presence of Missy, who is pretending to be the Doctor and trying to do good, with results as chaotic as you might expect. Jodie Hauser does a fine job of capturing Missy's personality, and there are some fine interactions between her and Doom. But Roberta Ingranata's artwork is a bit too simple for my liking, with not much depth in the backgrounds. Next comes the novel Salvation Point by M.G. Carey. This is the best story so far. It's made up of 4 hours, but they all connect to make up one large story. Hour 1 has a kind of Bond movie feel to it. It's one long action sequence on a ski planet full of killer androids. There's a real ticking clock feel for the first time, and a cameo from the 9th Doctor. Hour 2 is set on Satellite 5 from the long game, but there's no returning characters, it's just a familiar backdrop. It lets Doom have a bit of R&R, and it gives you a lot more insight into her character, including the fact that she sings. It would have made more sense if they'd put that in one of the audios, though, to make use of Susie's talents. Hour 3 has more of the 9th Doctor, and for the first time Doom has a moral dilemma as to whether or not she should kill her target, which finally gives her a bit more depth, and stops her from being just an immoral killer. Hour 4 has the 2nd Doctor appear, in much the same time frame as the current series of Big Finish audios, both of which I've already reviewed on this channel. And it does a decent job of rounding off the book story without really progressing Doom's story. Overall, this is the strongest instalment so far, with plenty of time to build up the story of Vaster and its warring factions. It's just a shame that the ultimate villains are the Slitheen, who are a bit one-dimensional. Still, it really helps to build up Doom's character, which was sorely needed. Next up is 4 from Doomsday, from BBC Audio. This is really 4 short stories read out by different narrators. The Steel Cascade brings back original Doctor Who companions Ian and Barbara on a well-deserved cruise that goes horribly wrong. Suze reads it and she does a fine job. Her portrayal of Doom is a lot less broad than it was in the trailer, thankfully. And you can tell she's having fun using lots of different accents to differentiate all the various characters, which may well be how she got the job in the first place. The Martian Dilemma has lots of breathy, whispery, ice warrior voices, so it's quite hard to follow. It may have worked better in print, but Jay Griffiths is a decent narrator, and she also does quite a good impression of Suze as Doom. An Ood Halloween is narrated by Silas Carson, who is more neutral and doesn't even try to impersonate Suze's voice. This brings back Brian the Ood from the Town Lord Victorious event, which I skipped, so I may have missed a lot of references. Still, it's a decent story with plenty of action and a formidable bad guy. Finally, there's Dark Space. Suze narrates again. This story has Doom meeting the 12th Doctor. Unfortunately, Suze's 12th Doctor voice is not that great. It sounds more like McWitch from Rent-A-Ghost. There's really no connection between all 4 stories, except that they're all written by Darren Jones. But the audio readings bring them to life a lot more than the previous entries, so it's definitely worth a listen. Most recently, there's the Big Finish box set, Dying Hours. This starts with Dawn of an Everlasting Peace by Jacqueline Rayner, who redeems herself from her earlier comics work, with a fun and pacey adventure that makes the most of its hour-long format, and also includes a touching subplot with the mother and son to help bring out Doom's softer side. This is the first time Suze has played Doom alongside other people, and it definitely improves her performance. She still goes for comedy more often than not, but it's tempered with more emotional layers this time. A Date with Destiny by Robert Valentine is probably the weakest of the set. Camille Kadooey as Jackie Tyler is as good as ever, and there's some fun scenes where Doom impersonates the Doctor, but there's too much banter between Doom and her rival assassin Destiny, which is really grating. Maybe intentionally so, but that's no help, and the whole thing feels very lightweight. Then by complete contrast, we have The Howling Wolves of Zanfir by Simon Clarke, which is a war story set on a planet of wolves. There's a lot of action, but maybe too many characters with similar wolfish voices to really follow what's going on. The silence of the villain here, and they are pretty creepy, but like the Weeping Angels, they'd probably work better on screen. Finally, for now, we have The Crowd by Lizzie Hopley. Yet again, Doom meets the Doctor, only not the one she's after. This time it's Paul McGann as the 8th Doctor, and working with him really raises Susie's performance. The Doctor's antagonism towards her profession, and Doom's desperation as she's coming to the end of her life, makes for some really meaty emotional scenes between them. There's some creepy villains, and also much philosophical discussion about the ethics of Doom's job, which has been a long time coming. It ends the set on a definite high. So this has been an interesting project to follow for all these months. The quality of individual stories varies a lot, but they do generally get better as the range goes along. There's very little continuity between the individual releases, and you can skip any of them without ruining the story. Doom starts off looking for the Doctor, and even when she finds him, it's always the wrong one. I guess it makes it easier for people to dip in and out of, but personally I would have preferred a stronger narrative to make it more worthwhile follow the whole story. At the time of recording, there's still one final Doomsday story to come, but it's not hard to guess what will happen. It's pretty clear that it will involve Doom going back to New Venice where it all began, and being killed by her past self. Hopefully there will be a twist and somehow Doom can continue on, possibly as an ex-assassin trying to do good. It would be interesting to see her keep popping up in Big Finish now and again, and I for one would love to keep on following her adventures, much as I followed Suze to Edinburgh this year. Not in a creepy way, mostly. No, it was to see her show Y2K Woman at the Edinburgh Fringe, and it was a fantastic show, well written, heartfelt and incredibly funny. Probably a more entertaining hour than any hour of Doomsday so far. But I may never have gone to see it if you hadn't been in Doomsday, so that may well be my fondest memory of this whole event. I thought about waiting for Suze after the show and asking her to sign my Doomsday comic, but given what I'm like in social situations, it could only have been incredibly embarrassing. So instead I've made this video, which will live online forever. Suze may never watch this, that's fine, and if she did, I'm sure her only reaction would be, thanks. Well, that's more than enough for now. I may do another video after this final chapter drops. Or I may not. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.